Hi everybody, my name is Cynthia Amadi, an actor and a vlogger. So last week I did put out a video in which I appealed to our Nigerian youth to get more involved in the politics of Nigeria, get more involved in the affairs of the country so it will not be left to the hands of the career politicians. And I actually did go in on my Igbo brothers and appeal to their senses and appeal to their conscience on how it is a useless cause calling for a war or calling for the Republic of Biafra. And I also did talk about how in a war situation, everybody will be a loser. After that particular vlog, I did get a lot of Facebook requests from my brothers in the North. And my guess is that they were kind of happy because they saw it as me going in on my people, on the Igbos. But you know what? I deliberately did not accept Facebook requests from such people. And before anybody begins to think that it's an attack on the Igbos, you need to pump the brakes on that. What I should have done was to inform everyone that I'll be going in on the 3 major tribes in Nigeria, talking about how their actions and inactions have brought Nigeria to the point where it's at, a boiling point, a tension point. If I had started with any other tribe other than Igbo, people would say, oh, she's very tribalistic. Since Nigeria became independent, the North alone has produced over 9 presidents and still counting, and yet they are unsatisfied. They are beclouded with a stiff sense of entitlement, like leadership is a birthright of the North. Of the 3 tribes, major tribes in Nigeria, the Northerners seem to think that they are superior to every other tribe, which is not so, because the Constitution recognizes every Nigerian individual or every Nigerian citizen as the same. It is a proven fact that of the 3 major tribes in Nigeria, the Northern youth is the least educated, and in this regard can be used as a tool to propagate violence, because when you tell them go, they hardly hear come. They are very volatile, very aggressive, very combative. And that is why a group of people who identify themselves as a Rewa youth can actually boldly think that it is their right to ask people to leave a certain country. Now, let me reiterate here that nobody has the right to predict, prescribe, direct, suggest, or authorize somebody to leave any part of the country, as long as it is Nigeria. Till this day, my northern brothers are known to have wasted more lives and destroyed more property than any other tribe in Nigeria today, which begs the question, if you tell me that what you practice as a religion is peace, why so violent? Why so aggressive? Why so combative? Why so manipulative? If somebody says to you, I feel like I have been treated unfairly for over a long period of time, don't we think that for this nation to move forward, perhaps it is time for everyone to sit down across the table and discuss what the grievances or concern is? Just like the Igbos scatter themselves around Nigeria, so do the Northerners. The only difference being that the Igbo man is very entrepreneurial, and so when he goes to a certain place, he goes with the aim of developing the place. But when the Northerner goes to other parts of the country, he goes to render services. Services such as being security guards, army guards, being shoemakers, and some of them have even married into the South. That's to show how we actually do need each other. So why so aggressive? Why so violent? Why so uncompromising? Why so entitled? Can you put on a dress that you made in 1960 or before 1960? Or let me say before the Civil War? Can anybody actually open a box of clothes and say, these are my apparel from before the war, before the Civil War, and wear those clothes and feel like a normal human being? The answer is no. So my question is, why carry on so much hate? If you cannot put on the clothes that you wore in the 60s in present day Nigeria, why do you still put on the garment of hate, the garment of suspicion, the garment of conspiracy against your fellow Nigerian, just because he speaks a different language from you, just because he's agitating for his right, just because he's saying to you, let us rotate leadership, let us rotate allocations, the federal allocations, let's do that which is fair. Why so entitled? That is the question that I have for my northern leaders. And let me quickly chip in here that this is by no means an insult to the people of the north, because just like you have the Igbo, the Hausa, the Yorubas, there are good people in the north, there are bad people in the north. There are good people in the east, there are bad people in the east. And the same applies to those in the west. Again, let me stress here that our common enemy is the government. Our leaders have failed us. We turn to our leaders, but even they do not have the solution out of the mess that they have plunged this country into. The poor Hausa man rides an Okada for a living. The poor Igbo man rides an Okada for a living. The poor Yoruba man rides an Okada for a living. So we are all united in this recession. We are all united in this feeling of hurt. We are all united in this feeling of poverty, in this feeling of in the whole mess that our leaders from time have plunged us into. So why do we turn against each other? Why don't we turn against our government? That's a very salient question that we don't seem to ask each other. Instead, we attack each other. We attack each other's way of life. We attack each other's way of worship. We attack each other's way of doing things. Why so much hatred by brothers in the north? An Igbo man migrates from the east and goes to the north. He invests there. He buys property. He builds a family around there. But how many northern entrepreneurs can boast of building or planting factories? Or how many times has the government demonstrated one unity in this nation by taking, let's say, an industry, a viable industry, and putting it in the east? All the Igbos do is migrate and develop wherever they find themselves. But the Hausa man, very suspicious and wicked in his ways, he doesn't see the need to invest in the east. And we wonder why there's an agitation for Biafra. This is not me supporting the Republic of Biafra, because I do not believe in it. All I am saying is, let us play fair. If somebody says to you after over 40 years, I need you to sit on the table and listen to me, I have certain concerns, as Nigerian, as one people, one nation, I think we should grant each other audience. How do you explain that a non-oil producing state such as Kano State has 44 local governments and an oil producing state such as Bayelsa has probably 8 or 9 local governments, and when you want to share resources, you share to 44 in Kano State and 8 in Bayelsa State? So this is just a case of monkey they walk, babu they chop. I honestly think our mumu don't do. Nigerian youth from the north, from the south, from the west, it is time for us to unite. Let us not carry over a hatred that our fathers who have failed us, they have failed in governing this country and they have failed in uniting us as a people. Let us not carry over that hate that they have ingrained in us, because some of the hatred that we show each other today, some of the intolerance that we practice amongst ourselves are inherited. My brothers, my fellow Hausa and Fulani brothers, open your eyes. Do not let yourself to be consumed by a hate or hatred that has been inherited over 40 years. Let us love each other. Let your experience with me be your experience with me. Do not look at me or perceive me from the eyes of your fathers who have failed you and who have failed me. The Nigerian youth need each other. The hatred is highly unnecessary. It is time for us to put aside the hatred. It is time for us to put aside the entitlement. It is time for us to put aside the suspicion that we have towards each other. The reality is that a select few think that it is their God-given right or their birthright to govern the rest of us. A case of George Orwell's Animal Farm, where all animals are equal, but some are more equal than the others. Just like I stressed in my last vlog that the Igbo man is more friends with people from outside his tribe than his own brother, that pissed a whole lot of people off. But then the Hausa man equally is his own worst enemy. Otherwise, how do you explain that certain people from certain parts of the north are bombing other states in the north? My Igbo brothers, for some of us that are not exposed, let us not be oblivious to the fact that if you go to certain states in the north, the conditions in which the people live is even more deplorable than you who live in the east. So this feeling of entitlement to certain things should not come. Let us rather come together as one. Our common enemy, I also will repeat, is the government. Some of our leaders today that we trusted with our votes are yet to achieve one promise that they made to us during election. and they are gearing up for 2019. These old men who want to die in power need the strength of the youth to perpetrate evil, to intimidate parties, to create tension in the country. Let us disappoint them for once. Let us say it is time that we say no to recycled politicians. No to anybody who has had a stint or a career in governance, because clearly the very same people who plunged us into this mess cannot get us out of it. It is time for us to begin to form youth-based political parties in readiness for 2019. Our mumu don't do. It is time to say to them, keep the change. Keep the things that you use in enticing me, that make you use and manipulate me only for you to dump me after you get into power. Let us forgive each other for the mistakes of our fathers. Let us not continue in the hate. Let us not continue in the sins of our fathers. Let us stop allowing ourselves to be visited with the sins of our fathers. If they cannot forgive each other, let us not aid them by being instruments for which they carry out their hateful acts. Nigerian youths, open your eyes and wise up. Your leaders are the major issues and problems in this country. People who want to die in power, people who served when they were young, wanting to serve now that they are old, wanting to hold on to power even when they are dying. It is time for Nigerian youths to get up and say, who is the mumu? So no, this is not me condemning one tribe or favoring the other. I am a detribalized Nigerian. And this is me chronicling the contributions from the three major tribes in Nigeria and their actions or inactions in leading us to this point of tension, this boiling point, the point at which we are the brink of a war we cannot afford, a war where everybody is a loser. Let us disappoint the Western states, people who cannot wait to benefit from Nigeria being torn apart. The North needs the South needs the West needs the East, and the East needs the North needs the East. Let us embrace each other. My Northern brothers, he who has ear, let him hear. The problem is not where anybody is from. The problem is not tribalism. It is not religion. These are artificial problems created by our wicked, selfish government leaders. My Northern brothers, open your ears. There are two major tribes in Nigeria. The elites that have amassed wealth, ill-gotten wealth for themselves, and the masses, where lies me and you. Shine your eyes, our mumu don't do. My Northern brothers, drop the violence, receive sense if you go fit.